Hey all, here are OS Reviews. Today we're taking a closer look at a compact portable projector from Meauro that has Full HD 1080p native resolution. And it's really impressive because a real 1080p native resolution projector really just a year or two would have sold for easily twice the price, versus 720p or even 480p is much more common. In fact, I think it's one of the cheapest models that you'll find at the moment that has this real Full HD resolution and this particular compact size. Technically, it's also a smart projector because it has built-in Bluetooth and Wi-Fi, having a version of Android that's built on in, which means that you can play back YouTube and certain things even without connecting it to any external sources. It also has stereo speakers built on in, along with an aluminum shell that feels very premium for the price. It has a focus wheel, and the keystone here can also be adjusted for the tilt, and here's what it kind of looks like from afar, projecting from 35 inches up to 200 inches, depending on the distance. Now, technically, you can also supply a 4K input using HDMI, but it's just going to be outputted at 1080p since that's the resolution of the lens. Alright, so inside we have, of course, the projector itself that we'll take a closer look at in a moment, and the keyword here is, again, mini projector, so it's not going to be to the same size as a home projector unit, which are often at least 3 or 4 times the size of something like this, and those larger home projector units, we have seen models with 1080p at a similar price point in the past, but certainly not one in such a small body. A full user manual, a remote control, along with a AC power adapter. So taking a closer look at the design of the unit, again, the shell on the outer edge here is actually constructed out of aluminum and metal, so it does feel quite sturdy, especially for a projector selling for $150. The handle here is made out of this synthetic leather material, but also is pretty easy to just lift it up. It is quite lightweight. One thing I will say though is the lens here. I do wish that maybe there would be a lens protector or a cap of some sort that you can use to prevent dust from accumulating. It's not too big of an issue. You can just wipe it off with a microfiber cloth, but it is one thing to keep in mind. And then we have just some accents that also houses the speaker placements on the left and the right side, giving you some stereo separation. And this thing does have built-in Bluetooth, which means you can also connect it to a wireless Bluetooth speaker if you want to have even louder, bigger sound, which is great. Technically, it's having 8 gigs of built-in storage for the Android OS built on in, along with 1 gig of RAM, but again, that's not super important. It's going to be just sufficient for playing back videos and running some light Android apps. Now on the bottom here are some soft touch rubber feet that prevents it from sliding around on a table, and there is a standard tripod mount as well, so you can increase the elevation. The accents here says designed by Meauro, and then on the back here we have all of the I/O, including the charging port, a full-size Type A USB port, so you can pop in a thumb drive and it can play back media content from the memory card. You can also see a full-sized HDMI port and also an auxiliary 3.5mm jack, again, if you want to listen to music in private or connect to other speakers. Finally, on the very top, we'll find access just to a power key along with a focus wheel to adjust the sharpness and the focus depending on how far away you are from the wall. One thing I will say though, in terms of maybe the only limitation in terms of hardware, is this model doesn't have a built-in battery. So in terms of providing power, you do have to always carry around that charging cable. You can definitely plug it into a power bank to turn it on, but it would be nice to have maybe a built-in pack. It's an area where they were able to cut down on the cost a little bit. Right now we have a virtual screen size of around 50 inches, and everything is definitely quite clear. Now it does have a fan that's running in the background to prevent it from overheating, so this is the white noise it makes. So it's definitely not the most quiet projector that we've ever seen, but still, as you're watching a video, as the music kicks in, it becomes not really too distracting, I'd say. Now the UI here, again, it's very similar to other Android TV boxes or smart projectors we've seen. It has this grid layout, which is pretty easy to navigate with the remote, and we're able to check out different things like our Wi-Fi settings, check if we're turned on to Bluetooth, if there's any system updates, things like that. Additional projector settings can also be accessed here, such as flipping the display depending on the orientation of how you have it mounted on the ceiling or on the wall, and you can also check out things like a digital zoom. So for example, if you want to crop in the image because you want to be pointing it at a projector surface, which is going to be a little bit smaller than the current one that we have displayed, you can actually do this using the options in the software directly. There's also a auto keystone function, so that can kind of change the tilt of the image by itself using a built-in accelerometer. So if we kind of tilt it like this, you can see it making a small adjustment as we go. Under the first option menu, we can also find the YouTube player to jump into just watching some videos quickly. There's also a eShare, which is the equivalent of Miracast for wirelessly sharing the screen of your device, as well as going to Source, which can switch into, let's say, HDMI instead of using the built-in Android operating system, so you can use a cable to mirror something from your computer screen, for example. There is a built-in app store called Aptoid TV, which have been optimized to work well on TVs, especially something that you'll use to navigate with a remote control D-pad. So things like YouTube, other video streaming applications like Disney, for example, web browsers, Netflix, Amazon Prime can all be found and downloaded, and you can watch back that content from here. So as a whole, this is a pretty simple, straightforward experience. A few light games like Pac-Man can also be found, but again, the hardware of the built-in Android OS, the processor here, quad-core, is fairly entry-level. So if you're trying to install games and apps and run them directly on the projector, I would recommend keeping it relatively light. But again, if you want to mirror the screen of your computer, you can play more demanding games powered by your more impressive laptop or computer, whatever device you're linking it to, PlayStation or external console. So anyways, that's the built-in app store, and if we go back, as a whole, system navigation is fairly smooth for what it is. We can also find all applications that can give us a longer list of everything included, and actually we can see that Netflix and Amazon Prime Video have actually been preloaded along with Spotify, as well as the full Play Store can also be found. Let's try the wireless screen sharing tools and then jump into screen sharing. It will try to scan for devices nearby, just tap on it, and just like any other smart TV, after a split second or so, as long as it's connected to the same Wi-Fi network, you'll see the content has been mirrored over. So this built-in support works pretty well. Just like other wireless screen mirroring apps, it will have a split-second delay of latency compared to a physical HDMI wired connection. Will of course be faster, but as a whole not bad if you want to just present something enjoyable to see everything at a more kind of zoomed in, larger screen view. And again, it's pretty nice to just interact with. Of course, if you're actually connecting it to a Nintendo Switch or to a PlayStation, those can give you an even better experience. I'm pretty impressed with the overall colors of the image I'm seeing as well, considering it's not a super premium laser projector or anything like that. It's a simple LED projector, but again, colors are pretty vibrant and contrasty. Blown up on a larger screen. If you want to just pop this onto the ceiling or a wall as you're doing some gaming, it can definitely add to the immersiveness of the experience. Let's try it using the HDMI source next. I'm just going to tap on HDMI here, and we have it connected to a Windows computer here. And after a split second, you can see it's recognized 1080p at 60 Hz by default. Now, other settings you can pull up when you are mirroring include the display, such as the color. You can make it a standard, light, soft, or other defined to adjust the properties there. Same thing goes with the color temperature. You can make it cooler or warmer, and even the sound quality, you can make it go to different modes, whether you want to play back music, movies, or for regular usage. All of this can actually be set up so that you can customize the properties, including the aspect ratio. Here's what a web page like The Verge looks like if we're browsing the internet. You can see how, again, text details are pretty legible and sharp. Colors, again, are very punchy and vibrant on here. Now, the technical lumens for the brightness output isn't specified, but I would say that it's similar to other smaller projectors and pico units, which is to say it's not going to be as bright as a home cinema projector that has more power. But with that being said, even if you have a little bit of background light in the room, it shouldn't detract from the experience too much. In fact, if we want to do a quick demo, I'm going to just open up the flashlight on our phone here and kind of shine that on the image, and you can see how everything is still, for the most part, legible. Of course, if there's too much bright light or sunlight hitting on it directly, just like any projector, the image quality would degrade, but even if there's a bit of background light, it should still be visible enough for the size and what it is. So good enough to get you by. Again, text details, if you're viewing back a PowerPoint, looking at Excel documents, or a web page, is still going to be sharp enough. So takeaways in terms of the audio quality is it does sound surprisingly good because it is a stereo speaker, and there is a nice touch of bass surprisingly as well, even though it's not going to be earth-shattering, but it doesn't sound tinny and at the same time not shrill either, even on trebles. So if you're using this to watch back some videos, this is by far one of the better speakers I have to say I've heard out of a budget projector. Certainly isn't shabby. Of course, you can improve the experience using external speakers, which are more expensive and have larger drivers, considering that it's still a very small unit at the end of the day, but really not bad for a built-in speaker, I have to say. Now, the image quality, again, does look quite vibrant and good in terms of the sharpness levels. Everything is pretty satisfactory in terms of details. Obviously, the larger you go in terms of the virtual screen size, the less detail there will be in terms of pixels per inch, but for a, let's say, 50-inch size or 100 inches, it still looks quite good in terms of the resolution and getting immersed in the footage that you're looking at. Again, all the details on the webpage here, all the different text still remains legible as well, so if you're looking at subtitles, things like that, it's still going to be a pretty good experience. So that's more or less it as far as our hands-on review of this Meauro 1080p mini projector, and again, as a whole, performing better than I was expecting comparing to the other alternatives on the market, which if you want a version with native resolution 1080p, you would have to often pay much more than only $150. It really is quite small. The built-in Android OS is a nice touch, although for the best effect, especially if you are doing more demanding gaming or document editing, would be still connecting it by HDMI, and overall above average performance for something of its size. Now, of course, there are a few cons here, including having a built-in battery would have been even better, since right now it has to be plugged in at all times for it to function, but overall, again, very well built as far as the construction and the design, and overall, again, better performance than you would think looking at the size and the price point alone. You can check out more details in the links down below. For now, that's been our video. Thanks for watching here at OS Reviews.